It's time for destination 2 on my little coach odyssey down the spine of Europe. I think this is my bus, double-decker Flixbus. I'm heading to Bonn, so in about 10 minutes the bus will be leaving, and it'll be, let's see, so 3 o'clock. It's going to be about 8 hours. So get there about 9:20 in the evening, so 3:15. I've got to try and do my count, so 6.5 hours on the bus. I don't know if we've got any stops in the way. But I'm actually right at the front, so there should be some good views there. And yeah, so just waiting for the driver to show up and then we can get going. So see you in Bonn. So we just stopped in Brussels for pickup. Originally I was sat further back, the seat next to the steps in the middle, because somebody was sitting in my seat. The bus was pretty much empty, so I didn't want to make a scene of it. But we just stopped here, turned out somebody had booked my seat, so I had to move. Thankfully, the person who had my seat had gone, so I'm at the front, and it's fantastic. So much legroom here. Wish I had that on the drive up to Ghent. Yeah, pretty comfortable, really nice seats, and yeah, got a few more hours left, but this is the first stop, so we'll be on our way in a few more minutes. So I made it to Bonn, arrived about 20 odd minutes ago, not too long. Journey was pretty smooth. I didn't get any footage of me arriving because I was so tired, my brain isn't really thinking properly. But yeah, it was a very straightforward ride. For some reason there were 2 customs checks, one on a motorway, was it before, I think it must have been the Dutch-German border, and there was another one at Cologne airport. So I'm not sure what that was for, but okay, fine. I thought Schengen was no passports. Anyway, got to Cologne. Now the hostel said I should have got the 600 bus from the stop. Well, that's definitely not true. There's a 610, a 611 going by the UN campus, which is where Flixbus stops. But the 600 is a city centre route. So yeah, so what I did was I finally joined the modern world, and I used Uber for the first time, and it was no problem at all. It was about 11 euros from the UN campus to here. This is the DJH Jugend. I'll put the name up of the hostel there. I'm also going to show you the exterior as well. But yeah, it was 11 euros. I just had to have a little walk from the road into the wooded area where the hostel is. There is actually a hostel right next to the UN campus. I don't know why I didn't pick that one. I'm guessing it wasn't an option on Hostel World. There was only 2 options, if I remember rightly. That wasn't one of them. So, but anyway, I'm here. It looks pretty good. And now there is Eurovision going on downstairs. There's some school kids watching it. I'm just too tired, which is really bad. I'm a Eurovision person. I booked my trip on Eurovision weekend, whatever. So I'm just gonna get some sleep. They actually moved me to a different room to what I was originally booked in, because apparently all the people who are other people in the room, they've already bedded down for the night, and obviously I'm late. But also there's an Irish guy who apparently he's going to be arriving about 12:30, 1 o'clock. So yeah, that's absolutely fine. It's good that they sort of move this around. That's pretty thoughtful of them for the other guests, especially. So I'm going to sign off for the night. I'm gonna crash out, get a good night's sleep. Fortunately, I've lost my eye mask, so that's annoying. But I do have my earplugs. That's the most important thing. And then tomorrow I start my day. So see you in the morning. So here is the hostel, and here is my room. Quite a small one. 4 beds. Pretty sturdy. Again, no sort of privacy, no curtains for privacy. Rock solid. Oh god, these are bars for steps, not nice. And then metal as well. Oh, that's bad. But they've got little stools here to help. Little table in the corner. Some cabinets. Wash basin here. See what room this is. This is a shower. Nice big space, nice solid screen. And then here we'll have, the bathroom. Again, I'm a gentleman, I will not be showing you the facility in full. And that's it, so let's see how it is so far. I'm going to take this bed, I think. And outside, yeah, I'm not sure what the view is there. But this is the room. Almost missed this, so here's the cupboard. This is my one, and I'm going to try and put my suitcase in. Now, obviously this is not designed for the suitcase brigade like me, but it's almost big enough. Yeah, it's not quite big enough, but that's fine. That's fine. It's going to be big enough for all that. And obviously if you have a rucksack, it's going to be big enough for that. And it's actually a clothes hanger as well. So yeah, it's still good. Just not for me, but for most other people, it's pretty good. Good morning everyone, it's 9 o'clock, I'm in Bonn. Again, overslept just a little bit, but not too bad. Still quite early, had a decent continental breakfast. I'm just left my hostel. It's in a bit of a, kind of I guess a suburb of Bonn. There's a few other little hotels and hostels around here, but it is a bit out of the way. It's about an hour walk downhill, so I've gone into the modern world as I did yesterday, and I've ordered an Uber. So it's going to take me into the city centre, to the Altes Rathaus, to start my day looking around the former capital of the Federal Republic of West Germany. So, see you in the city centre. Good morning and welcome to Bonn here on Market Square, or Marktplatz, as the German is. This is obviously the traditional medieval centre of trade and commerce back in the early days. It's a Sunday morning, so even though it's about 9:30, it's still really dead. I think they still have kind of some different, more restrictive Sunday trading laws in Germany, so not much will be open. I'm not sure if any of the attractions will be open. We'll see. Hopefully they will be. But so I've got one whole day to check out the city. It's going to be a little bit better than Ghent because I don't have the sleep deprivation, so I won't need to dash back to the hostel for a nap, which is good because it is quite far out. Google Maps said it was about 1 hour 10-minute walk, and that was all downhill from there, so next will be uphill. Still about 10 minutes in the Uber, so definitely worth setting that up. Anyway, we turn around here. Behind me, we have the Altes Rathaus, the old town hall. When I say old, I mean by German standards, it's actually quite new. It was actually completed in 1780 by Michael Levailly, I believe his name was. He was the court architect of the Electorate of Cologne, and that was actually right at the end of the period of the electorate. The electorate ended in 1794. It's in a Rococo style. As you can see by some of the very ornate archways there. And I'm not sure about it. Don't think about it. Not sure about to get in today. We'll see what's in there. But yeah, gonna start the day and look around this interesting small city of Bonn. And behind me right here is the Kurfürstlich. I hope I've said that right, or the Elector's Palace. This was the primary residence of the head of state of the Electorate of Cologne. So it's kind of weird. When Germany was lots of small states and republics and principalities, all spread out all over the place. The Electorate of Cologne, as it was called, its capital was not Cologne, it was Bonn, right here. And this is the palace. Electorate means that the head of state is an electorate or principality electorate, something like Prince Elector, I think it's called. They had a vote. They were one of the electors of who would be the next Holy Roman Emperor, which for a while was just the Habsburg ruler of the Austria-Hungary. What's interesting about the Electorate of Cologne is that it wasn't an hereditary monarchy. It was an ecclesiastical electorate principality, I guess. It was actually ruled by the Archbishop of Cologne, and there's still an Archbishop of Cologne, and that role for a few hundred years was the head of state of the Electorate of Cologne. There were only two others like that in Germany, Mainz and Trier. This building was completed in 1705, and so quite late into the period. The electorate ended in, I think, 1803, maybe 1806, I can't remember. And it's now the main building of the prestigious University of Bonn. It's obviously it's very large, but also quite simplistic as well. It doesn't look particularly ornate. It looks almost functional relative, to how palaces are. And outside here, I'm in the Palace Park, which is just a big open public park, which I can imagine during the summer is just going to be thronged with people at lunch times during the day, just lounging out in the sun. It looks very fantastic. At the moment it's very quiet. It's kind of mild. I think it's going to be rain later, but at the moment it's quite a pleasant morning. So back to the walking, and behind me is Münster St. Martin, or Bonn Münster, the main cathedral minster of the city of Bonn. It's a Romanesque church, one of the finest in the region, probably one of the finest in Europe actually. It's been built between 1150 and 1230, and it replaced a much older 11th century church. It sits here on Münsterplatz, which is another, typical European square. It's a mixture of what looks like 18th century, but there's not so much medieval, but quite a few modern ones as well. That'll be down to the Royal Air Force, I guess. But lots of open air seating as you expect, and a very attractive statue of Bonn's favourite son, Ludwig van Beethoven. I'll be going to his house later, and that's really the main attraction I want to see, want to go into. Hopefully there'll be more time to go into the other places, but that's still the one I'm definitely going into. So let's see some more. for 11 o'clock and the city is still completely dead. Because some of the eateries aren't open yet. There's a lot of seating still stacked up and they're just getting set up. So this is really very restrictive. Sunday trading laws. I don't think any of the shops are open as far as I can tell. I'm sure some of the restaurants and the bars will be open later. I'm not going to keep the drinking holes shut for too long. But yeah, it's completely dead at the moment. Whereas in Britain there'd still be some activity going on. And here we are at Bonn 20, also known as Beethoven House. This is where Beethoven was born on the 17th of December 1717. He lived here until he was 18 years old. It's quite a middle class home, one of the last remaining from the time of the electorate. Now, contrary to what the pro-lifers like to say, Beethoven was not the child of an impoverished, blind, half-crippled woman and an alcoholic father, or whatever they say. It's the usual hypothetical they put out. If a child was born to these parents, should they have an abortion? If you say yes, then you've aborted Beethoven. It's not true. This is a middle-class house. It's quite well to do. His mother, Maria Kewelek, she was the daughter of the head chef at the court of John IX, who was Archbishop of Trier. And his father, Johann, was actually a tenor in the court of Clement August, who was the Archbishop Elector of Cologne. So they were quite, I won't say they were rich, but they were quite decent. They had a decent standard of living. This house is very nice by today's standards, by those standards. And of course, he was an accomplished musician. So at any time, you need money to do that. So to all those pro-life out there, like using the Beethoven argument, you need to stop because it's really stupid. And this is the classic portrait of Ludwig van Beethoven, painted by Joseph Stieler, where he's holding the manuscript of the Missa Solemnis. Here's the beer I've ordered, the Bonn Natter Trub. Oh, look at this glass, hey, look at this. Wow, that's pretty funky. It's pretty cool, I like that. And the beer matches up. And here is the dish. It's Bonn veal sausages with caramelised onions, Bonn beer sauce, barrel-aged sauerkraut and mashed potatoes. So it's a traditional local dish with traditional local sausages. So I'm really looking forward to this feast. So it's time to tuck in. Well, that was a superb main course. The sausages were delicious. I even love the sauerkraut. Maybe the best sauerkraut I've ever had. Now for some dessert with chocolate mousse, some red berry sauce and a saison beer. The museum didn't allow filming, so it's photos all the way. Started off with a special exhibition called After Hitler, which is about how Germany dealt with the crimes of the Nazi Party in the years after World War II. Not just the immediate years, but the next generation of young people born long after World War II, and how they viewed their nation's complicity in these crimes. And then it moved on to the actual standard history of West Germany. Starting off obviously with the immediate post-war years and how the country defined itself, including some examples of alternate flags that were considered. And then of course it goes into things like Germany's industrial progress, how it dealt with culture, and then moving into the pop culture, how it related to the West, specifically in terms of pop music. You can listen to some old German pop music here. And then of course there's Germany's dominance in sport, especially football, with some references to East Germany. But of course the main thing was the end of the Cold War and the collapse of the Berlin Wall, including the actual notes that led to the opening of the wall and the moment it all happened. There's also some Roman ruins inside the cellar of the museum, which is very interesting too. So that was the Museum of the History of Federal Republic of Germany. It was a fascinating museum, free of charge. Some really interesting exhibits. Obviously the one, especially exhibition about the years after Hitler and dealing with how German people dealt with Hitler was very eye-opening, especially some of the things. There's a video of interviews with teenagers related to this American TV show called Holocaust. And one girl was basically talking about how she could see the way politics was developing, and it's kind of pressing because she kind of predicted what's happening right now. But this was great to see some of the news footage from the end of the Berlin Wall that night when the East Germans kind of screwed things up by accident and were forced to open the Berlin Wall. It was kind of moving as well to see it again. I was 14 at the time when it happened. So this is a fantastic museum. Yeah, you should definitely go and see it, especially from my generation. You remember those events. So now it's raining a bit, so I'm going to head in that direction, and I'm going that direction, and I'm going to check out the old West German Parliament building. It is that way, I think. Okay, so let's get walking in the rain. is the Deutsche Bundesrat, or Bundeshaus is also called. This was the Parliament building of the Federal Republic of West Germany from 1945 to 1989. So I'm not sure exactly when this building was built, but the Parliament was here in Bonn for that period. No, sorry, it wasn't 1980, it was 1999. Sorry, it's very stupid. 1989 was when the wall opened up. The actual capital of Germany transferred from Bonn to Berlin about 1991, I think it was. But the Parliament remained here until the Reichstag was redeveloped with that glass dome developed by Sir Norman Foster, I think it was. But here is where a lot of the Cold War politics happened. Germany was on the front line of the Cold War. It wasn't the only country on the border of the Iron Curtain. There was also Austria and Italy. But Germany was the one that was carved up. So it was right here where the action took place, especially from my childhood. So that's the Bundeshaus. Now I could go back to the hostel, but I'm actually not going to go back to the hostel. There is the Königs Museum across the road, but I think it's probably a bit too late to go in there to get a good sense of it. So I'm just going to stay out for a few more hours, so meander back into the city centre, do the coffee. I haven't had a coffee since breakfast, and I'll get some dinner later and then head back to the hostel. So let's go back into the old town. And that's me done for Bonn. It's 8:15 now, a little later than I planned to leave. It's not too bad. The bus is actually slightly delayed as well, so that's fine. It's a really nice hostel here. It's another great day, slight drizzle again. Can't believe it's just raining every day on this trip. So I am now going to get myself an Uber, get down to the Flixbus stop and make my way to Stuttgart. So see you in Stuttgart.